your flipped grammar lesson for Storytown Lesson 16, Adjectives. For this video, you will need your whisk worksheet and a pen or pencil. Let's get started.
On your whisk worksheet, please write adjectives next to the unit of study. Then in the W section, write down where and when you watch this video.
We'll start with a definition. What is an adjective? Well, an adjective is one of the parts of speech. We've done a lot of work with adjectives in our writing so far this year, but now we're going to focus on how an adjective acts in a sentence grammatically. An adjective is one of the describing words. Some other describing words are adverbs, but adjectives modify nouns. Remember that a noun is a person, place, thing, or idea. And sometimes you see this word modify, and I want to make sure you understand what it means. If you have modified something, it means that you've made some change to it or improved it in some way. So an adjective is a word that is adding to or changing the noun by giving it a little bit more of a description. Adjectives work in a sentence to modify the nouns by answering one of these questions. Which one? How many? How much? Or what kind? Every adjective will answer one or more of these questions about the noun it is modifying. In a few minutes, you will start to watch some videos. All of these videos are related to clocks or timing. You might see some of your teachers playing minute-to-win-it games. In the following video, please try to think of some adjectives that say which one, how many, how much, or what kind about the game that the teachers are playing. Were you able to find some adjectives to describe the nouns in the previous video? I hope so. If you weren't, I hope that the scrolling adjectives along the bottom of the screen helped you. Another thing that will help you find adjectives in a sentence is to look for common adjective suffixes. Not every adjective will have one of these suffixes, but a lot of the time when you see these suffixes at the end of the word, it's probably acting like an adjective in the sentence. I'm going to give you a minute to take a look and maybe even write down some of these suffixes that you will commonly find at the end of adjectives. In the next video, watch the teachers playing the minute-to-win-it game. Try to think of some adjectives that have these common adjective suffixes while you are watching the video. I hope you were able to identify some great adjectives related to the previous video. Now let's look at another kind of adjective. These are articles. You might not think of these words as adjectives because they don't seem very descriptive, but articles do act as adjectives, grammatically speaking, in a sentence. Technically, a and an are the same article. A is used when the following word in the sentence starts with a consonant sound, and you change it to an when the following word in the sentence starts with a vowel sound. A and an are article adjectives that are put in front of nouns to specify that it's a particular noun you're referring to. The is the other article that we use in English. The means that there is a definite or specific noun that you're referring to, perhaps out of a group of many nouns. Let's take a look at some other kinds of adjectives. Another kind of adjective is a proper adjective. Now, proper adjectives are formed from proper nouns, which means that just like the proper noun it comes from, we need to use a capital letter at the beginning of the proper adjective. Proper adjectives take that proper noun and add one of our adjective suffixes to the end of it in order to make the noun into a describing word. Let's look at some of the examples on the page. One kind of proper noun that can be turned into an adjective is a language. So, Russia turns into Russian. Russian alphabet is a phrase where you have Russian as the adjective with a capital R, and alphabet as the noun it is modifying. Nations also can be turned into proper adjectives. So from China, we get the Chinese government. Capital C at the beginning of Chinese, just like you would put a capital C at the beginning of China. Ethnicities are another type of proper adjective. A person's ethnicity is their heritage or cultural background. So, for example, if a person comes from a Spanish-speaking region, they might describe their culture as Hispanic culture. Another type of proper adjective comes from a specific person. Usually this is reserved for people who have become pretty famous. So, for example, William Shakespeare, the playwright, sometimes has his work referred to as an adjective form of his name, such as a Shakespearean sonnet. Another way you can use adjectives is to compare nouns to one another. If you are using an adjective to compare two nouns, you are using the comparative form of the adjective. Comparative adjectives usually end in ER, although sometimes you use the word more in front of the adjective instead of adding the ER suffix. So, for example, you might say, Miss Rule is prettier than her sister, or you could say, Miss Rule is more beautiful than her sister. But what if you're comparing three or more nouns? Well, in that case, you use the superlative form of the adjective. Superlative adjectives usually end in EST, although sometimes you put the word most in front of the adjective to show that it's superlative. So, for example, you could say, Miss Rule is the smartest teacher in the school, or you could say, Miss Rule is the most intelligent teacher in the school. Both of those are superlative adjectives. Take a look at this chart to see some of the irregular comparative and superlative adjectives that are out there. These are the most common. They don't just add the ER or EST or use more or most in order to make the comparative and superlative forms. So, for example, good in the comparative form changes to better. In the superlative form, it changes to best. Bad changes to worse and worst. Much changes to more and most. And little changes to less and least. These irregular comparative and superlative adjectives don't follow the normal comparative and superlative patterns. In the next video, see if you can make some comparative adjectives while you are watching the game that Mr. Starrett and Mrs. Morgan are playing. Now find some superlatives. I hope you enjoyed watching these videos of the teachers and students playing Minute to Win It games while also learning something about adjectives. In the S section of your WISC worksheet, please write a 5-sentence summary of what you learned from the video. Once you're done with that, in the Q section, write a question you might have about something you did not understand in the video. As always, if you have no questions, then create a test question. If you need to, you can go back and watch all or part of this video again. Be sure to complete your assignment on time and turn it in by the due date. See you next week.